we move on to our next news. Now we move on to Middle East. According to reports, Hamas has begun stockpiling advanced weapons outside Gaza with plans to smuggle them into the enclave in the future. The group is allegedly storing weapons in several African states, Yemen, and other locations, aiming to move them to strategic sites, including Gaza. The report comes amid growing discussion that the Trump administration may advance its Gaza reconstruction plan even without immediate Hamas disarmament, as efforts to secure international partners for a demilitarization force stall. Israel insists no progress can be made until Hamas is fully disarmed. Defense Minister Israel Katz said the IDF is advancing tunnel demolition operations along the Gaza side yellow line, while IDF Chief of Staff LT Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir has said forces must be ready to seize more territory if needed. On the sidelines, other reports have suggested the IDF has uncovered a Hamas commander diary in Beit Hanun detailing the group's embedding of operations in schools, hospitals, and UN facilities. Evidence, Israel says, supporting long-standing claims about Hamas's use of civilian infrastructure. Now for this discussion, we welcome Peter Baum. He's a foreign editor at Weekly Blitz, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us again. Do you think that U.S. moving forward, even though demilitarization of Hamas has not happened yet, what do you think are the problems or objectives lying between these Hamas demilitarization, and what do you think Israel will do to push and make sure that demilitarization happens before anything else?
Okay. It was obvious to any analyst, any political researcher, any commentator looking at the Trump peace plan that one of the most difficult issues would be the disarming of Hamas, and therefore leading on from that, the demilitarization of Gaza. Now, Hamas is trying its very best to retain some kind of influence, major influence, in the lives of the Gazans going forward. Politically, her former master, Iran, is totally isolated, and Israel has tried, and the United States have tried to break the funding of Hamas, whether that's through Iran, which they've done reasonably successfully, or through the United Nations organizations personnel working with Hamas, such as those working in UNRWA. Now, financially, if that business model is broken, then Hamas are going to find it increasingly difficult to procure the necessary armaments that it needs to carry out its objective militarily. Politically, Hamas still has some credibility with the likes of Qatar and Turkey, but less so. Now, in order for full demilitarization to take place, Hamas are naturally going to have to give up all their arms, which they are not prepared to do. And this major issue is going to be one of the reasons why the Trump peace plan will have difficulty in terms of the time frame to achieve its second objective, let's say phase 2 of the plan. As far as we all know, at the moment, Hamas is still reasonably well equipped, but nothing like it was during the October the 7th conflict. So piece by piece, the Trump administration and Israel are dismantling the Hamas military infrastructure. And only then, when those two actors believe that Hamas are completely ill-equipped, let's say, will phase 2 of the total demilitarization of Gaza be able to proceed.
Right. And how should international community balance humanitarian reconstruction efforts in Gaza with the political and security imperative of ensuring Hamas disarmament, if possible?
Yeah, this again is a key issue. No uh, organisation or nation will want to commit their people to Gaza in the knowledge that the two sides could soon come into conflict with each other. So, as I said before, it will only be when the good faith actors feel comfortable enough that Hamas, as a military force, is ill-equipped to achieve its terrorist ambitions, will, should those good faith actors go into Gaza and start help with the reconstruction process. And really the ball is in Hamas's court and those with whom are currently able to influence Hamas, who are, let's face it, Turkey and Qatar. They are the only two, and obviously through them the Trump administration, but Turkey and Qatar should step off the fence and, let's say, stop their duplicitous role of wanting to impose the Trump administration whilst at the same time giving some kind of comfort factor to Hamas.
And what do you think of the alleged stockpiling of weapons in multiple countries? How do you think this is complicating more regional diplomacy and efforts to curb transnational arms smuggling to Hamas?
Well, I think we will never, as a united democracy globally, stop arms smuggling. So it's highly possible that that Hamas is equipping itself or getting funding through arms through other countries. The Israeli and American intelligence is sufficiently in tune to understand if that is happening, which countries are providing such equipment. So I think as long as Hamas have funding in place, they will be able to procure weapons. As long as those weapons are outside of the conflict zone, then I think there's still a possibility that enough political pressure can be brought on those countries seeking to help Hamas to actually tone down the equipment that is in place. And what equipment can it be? It must be small arms fire. It can't be anything like tanks or anything like that. So
Yes.
if Hamas are to rearm itself, I'm afraid it's only the people of Gaza that are going to suffer again, and we may yet see another conflict. But let's think positive about this. Let's say that the funding is in place for Hamas to procure small arms fire, and that the intelligence is sufficiently robust that those arms will never get into the Gaza area. They can only get through either the Egyptian Rafah crossing, and I think that there may be elements on the Egyptian side that are corrupt enough to allow this to happen. Certainly by sea, Israel will not allow it, nor by air. So a window of opportunity for Hamas, but I don't see this as being a major issue going forward.
Right. Thank you very much, Peter, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we stay on this topic now. Hamas and other Palestinian factions in Gaza have issued a statement overnight rejecting the US-backed resolution set to be voted on at the UN Security Council later today, calling it dangerous and an attempt to place the Gaza Strip under international authority. The factions have said that they reject any clause requiring the disarmament of Gaza or limiting what they describe as the Palestinian right to resistance. They have also opposed the deployment of any foreign military presence inside of Gaza, saying it would violate Palestinian sovereignty. The statement added that any international force must operate directly under the UN and coordinate only with official Palestinian institutions without involvement from Israel. The Security Council vote concerns President Donald Trump's comprehensive Gaza ceasefire plan, which envisions the territory being handed over to an international stabilization force and an apolitical Palestinian administration which will be overseen by Trump-chaired Board of Peace. The plan calls for Gaza's demilitarization and reconstruction, though Hamas has so far refused to accept demilitarization terms. Now we welcome back Peter Baum. He's a foreign editor at Weekly Blitz, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Peter, for staying with us. Peter, looking at this, what are we to make of the Hamas's warning? As you also mentioned in our earlier discussion, that Hamas does not, even though Hamas is not a legitimate authority or governing body, Hamas does hold some say in Gaza, regardless of what international community or international players in this might want.
Yes, now this is going to be very interesting and very much is connected to the previous question that we were going through, and why.
Yes.
If in this resolution that we're going to witness today, there are any people voting no or indeed abstentions, that will give the green light that Hamas is not as politically isolated as good faith actors hope she will be. If it's a unanimous vote for the resolution, that will further indicate to the world at large that Hamas is now totally politically isolated, and by clinging on to the hope that somehow she will be able to be a force militarily within Gaza would give her zero credibility. So the vote today is going to be very important on many accounts, most importantly to see how isolated Hamas is from those who are currently able to communicate with the leaders of Hamas. If the likes of Turkey and Qatar, for example, or any other Arab nation for that matter, either abstains or indeed votes against the resolution, then that will be a clear indication that Hamas is not as isolated as the anti-Hamas factions hopes it will be.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Peter for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now we stay in the region. Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler